How does that make you feel when they say to you, I wasn't going to get something until I saw you, and now you've inspired me to buy
It makes me feel good, because growing up, I didn't have many people that looked like me, who I thought were hot and successful. This is one thing that really made a difference for me. Like a few years back, I unfollowed everyone that made me feel like shit. I don't know I don't know if we can curse here.
You can curse here, okay. Yeah.
Working in Brazil is complicated. It's really good because people are very used to being creative and people are very used to overcoming challenges. So, sometimes you don't have the best budget, you don't have the best equipment, but you still manage to make things work. For example, the whole WhatsApp thing, I hate that.
What do you mean by that? Explain that.
If you're not a brand that you make me feel represented, and you're like, if I go on a website, even if you have my size, if I don't see anyone that looks like me, I'm not buying. You don't do art in Brazil because you're going to make tons of money. You make it because you really love it and you're passionate and you want to tell stories and you want to amplify voices. I think that's a tricky question. I think home will always be Brazil. Home will always be Brazil. But after so many memories, so many years, so many stories, London feels like home too, a little bit. Not fully, a tiny bit, but more than I would like to admit, maybe.
Okay, more than you'd like to admit. E aí, Beleza Bem, vindo, what's up, what's good, and welcome to the Brazilian podcast with me, your host, Steven. And it's been a little while, but we are back now, and we are joined by a very special guest, someone who we've been trying to get on the show for a long time now, and we've been lucky enough that she has made some time for us today. So we are joined by the model, photographer, and outright someone who has trailblazed the industry of fashion and arts, Fernanda Liberti. I'll clap. I'll clap for you.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Yeah. It's been a while that we've been trying to get you on, and as I said in the intro, it's because you're someone who's quite busy, always working. Tell us a little bit about what you do exactly, because you do quite a few things, don't you?
Yes, I do. So I've been doing photography since I was 14, and I started, as a hobby, as a playtime, and then it's been my profession and my career for quite a few years now. And then recently as well, in the past 2 years, I started modeling too, and this is what I've been doing in the UK as well. And I also have, inside of my photography, my artistic sort of research practice that I do different projects, collaborate with different artists, and then usually these goes to exhibitions. And then inside photography as well, there's the commercial practice, so working with brands, institutions, different clients. So yeah, quite a few different things, and then social media too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Enough to be busy.
Busy, yeah, definitely. The proof is in the pudding, definitely. And when you were in Brazil, obviously you're Brazilian.
Yeah.
When you were in Brazil, what was your main focus? Because I know you studied here, right, in the UK.
My main focus was always photography.
Okay.
Photography was always the main focus, but I've also worked with different media, so video. In Brazil, I've directed a few music videos, worked with different independent artists and things like that. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Your English is quite, it's really, really good.
Thank you.
Especially for, I don't know, when I live in Brazil as an English teacher. So when I say that your English is really good, it's coming from a professional perspective. Where did you learn English? Was it here or in Brazil?
It started in Brazil. I started doing courses and studying when I was quite young, because my mom, she didn't speak very good English. She tried a few courses and things. Like today, she's quite good, but at the time, she wasn't very good at it. So it's sort of like, I don't know. So I want to make sure that you do. And also my dad, he never got his degree and stuff, but English was the thing that made him change his reality, progress in life. So he was always like, he's like, I don't care what you do, but you need to speak English, you know? So at home, there was always this encouragement to study, to enhance myself, to learn different languages. So yeah, I remember when my mom is gonna love this, when I was a teenager and I just wanted to hang out with my friends and not go to the course, and she'd be like, one day you're gonna thank me, you know, that I forced you to go to this boring ass course. So yeah, thank you, mom and dad, for pushing me.
Yeah, it paid off.
Yeah.
Now look at, you're here,
Yeah.
speaking English fluently.
Yeah, and I think it's good because when I moved here, I was 19 and I didn't have any friends and family or anything. And so the language was the only thing I had, you know. At least I could communicate. At least I could try to make friends, you know. So
Yeah. What made you come here? Was it to study originally, or what?
the weather, you know. I just really wanted to enjoy the UK beaches, you know. Rio just wasn't giving that for me. No. Yeah, I came to study because I really wanted to work as a professional photographer. And then at the time, there wasn't any course in Brazil that really allowed me to do so in a university level. I could study design and then do like a photography semester or things like that. But there wasn't somewhere that I could also do photography academically, you know, in the sense of like writing essays and then research and not just taking pictures and like working in advertising, you know?
Yeah. You mentioned that your parents really honed in how important learning English was.
Yeah.
So as that was at a young age, did that mean that like the idea or the dream of going abroad, living in another country, and was that something that was encouraged by them from an early age?
Yeah, definitely. And it was something that I always wanted because today I have a really good relationship with Brazil. I love it. It's my home. It's my identity. So many things about me. But growing up I didn't feel that way so much. You know, I always felt that my place was in the world. And I don't know, I think because I grew up in Rio, but I grew up in like Zona Oeste and in this, you know, it was beautiful, but it was a very conservative neighborhood. And I just felt very different from the people that I was growing up with. So then I always felt that I had like I don't know. I always felt that I wanted to do bigger things and I wanted to get out and see the world, you know? So I think that's, my parents like, okay, if you want to do that, then you need to learn languages. And I think they were always trying to, even if at first they wanted to keep me under their wing, they were always kind of preparing me to live the life that I do today.
How old were you when you realized, hey, you know what, this place where I'm at is not for me. I need to get out of here. And
7?
7?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did you know at 7 that you wanted to be a photographer and stuff like that?
Not necessarily a photographer, but I was already super interested in fashion and art and different things. And my great grandma, she worked with fashion. She was a designer. She was a seamstress. She was, you know, she had her own thing. So she was always my inspiration. And we were very close as I was growing up. So I always wanted to be like her a little bit, you know? So I always knew that I think ever since that age, I couldn't see myself doing anything else that wasn't working in the arts or doing something creative, you know?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So arts was encouraged by your family then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some points, especially with my dad, it was like, you know, that can be a hobby, but like, how are you going to pay your bills kind of thing, you know? And I understand, like at the time he was looking out for me and, you know, I've been freelance for many years now and it's lovely, gives me flexibility, gives a lot of things, but there's also the downside of it, and I guess he was just worried about that, you know? But today, like, both of them are my biggest supporters, and just...
Yeah, your fans, happy. Yeah?
Yeah, they're my fans. They're my biggest fans, yeah.
Good. Oh, that's lovely. When thinking about, like, your career and being freelance...
Yeah.
Are you based in London?
Yeah.
Like, based, yeah, because you travel a lot.
Technically, yes.
Always working and things like that takes you all over the globe.
Yeah.
But if you're based here, do you think that what you do freelance-wise, it works here, it's okay, or is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. what's your experience with working in Brazil?
Working in Brazil is complicated. It's really good because I think people are very used to being creative and people are very used to overcoming challenges. So, sometimes you don't have the best budget, you don't have the best equipment, but you still manage to make things work because everyone, you don't do art in Brazil because you're going to make tons of money. You make it because you really love it and you're passionate and you want to tell stories and you want to amplify voices and you want to connect with people in a way, and art allows you to do that. But yeah, it's hard because I think sometimes people can be very unprofessional, people don't really know how to have good, healthy work boundaries, For example, the whole WhatsApp thing, I hate that.
What do you mean by that? Explain that.
No, because one thing is after the job is finalized, you're touching up some details or you have a relationship with the person, you're talking on WhatsApp and stuff. But I feel for example, in Brazil, a lot of clients, they want to, do budgeting and do important pre-production things through WhatsApp and things like that. And they will message you on a Sunday when you're with your family and things like that, So I think sometimes people don't really understand these boundaries that well. And I think this is one thing that working in the UK works better for me in that sense that no one's WhatsApping me about a job on a Saturday afternoon unless it's something quite urgent that really needs to be solved on that day, So I think the industry in Brazil can be very exploitative in many senses.
Yeah. I remember because how I found out about you, how I discovered you, or wanted to get you on for the podcast was through a friend of mine who did a campaign with you in Rio, and I saw the campaign on her socials and I was like, oh wow, cool, that person looks interesting. And I remember we spoke off camera and you said that that was a bit of a crazy job. Was that one of the jobs where they were a bit more intrusive and a bit too...
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies in Brazil as well, especially, it's the month of June. Let's talk about diversity. I feel there's... if we're going deep into it, the way the advertising works in Brazil is the people who are running the advertising companies and the people who are running the big campaigns, they're still very old school and they still have very traditional, which sometimes are very conservative sort of mind views, So yes, they will have a diverse cast, but they don't really believe in that. They're just doing it because it's what the industry is asking, it's what the customers are asking, but themselves, they are not supportive of those minorities. They're not supportive of having those people. So they're not sometimes prepared to deal with them, They're not prepared to understand the needs that a certain demographic would have on set or they will have in a production, So a lot of the things is just to tick boxes, but it's not necessarily something that they truly believe in.
Yeah. And this was a job, just for context, this was a job where you were modeling.
Yeah.
So they had hired you for this campaign as a model.
Yeah.
And they were trying to showcase diversity. But as you said, they're quite old school and they were just doing it, para inglês ver, to coin a phrase, to keep up appearances, to stay up to date with the trending times. But they didn't really truly represent that. Yeah,
I had a lot of problems on set that day. I don't want to get into it right now, but it was just...
Name and shame if you want.
No, it's fine. It wasn't a day that I felt respected, It was a day that I regretted doing the job at the end of the day, and that never happened before. So it just wasn't a good experience. But it was, I think, if I stop to think about, I'm really, really lucky, I'm really fortunate that 9 out of 10, I think this was the only one. And it's not the whole team. There was just certain situations that happened on set that really weren't okay. But if I speak on the grand scheme of things, I've been very, very lucky and privileged to always work with really amazing people, to always work with people who are very kind, very considerate, very professional at what they do, But sometimes it happens,
Yeah. What about, flipping it and talking about your modeling modeling career in England? How respectful or how represented do you feel? How welcome do you feel in those sort of circles?
So I think modeling is a tricky profession for everyone that does it because it's a lot of ups and downs, and unfortunately the way that women's bodies are seen in the world is through trends. So we have, when I was growing up, it was the Y2K, early 2000s, like heroin chic, super skinny, and then it became like a Kim Kardashian curvy, and then it was like body positivity, and now we're going back to this sort of skinny desire and this sort of gaze. So it's complicated because sometimes there's a lot of work, sometimes there isn't. But it's something that I've always felt more welcomed in the UK than I've always felt in Brazil, to be honest.
Okay.
Because a lot of people get surprised at this, but it's true. Like, I remember growing up in Brazil, I couldn't find any clothes that fit me because I'm also tall, and I guess most Brazilian women are quite short, but I always had a really, really hard time to finding clothes for me. That's one of the reasons why I got involved in fashion, because I started doing a course so I could make my own clothes, because I was tired. If you were growing up in Brazil and you wore in like a size 0 or a size 2 or something like that, you couldn't find anything nice. You would have to shop at like grandma's clothes. You would have to shop at these really ugly shops, and I wanted to look cute. So I remember the first time I came to the UK, and it was just sort of like an exchange program thing, and I was in this random school in like Winchester. It was just really random.
That sounds quite random, yeah.
Yeah, but I had a really good time, and I met people from all over Europe, and it was sort of like my first experience abroad without my family. And I remember they took us on a trip to like Oxford Street, and I remember the first time I went on a shop, and then I called my mom crying. I was like, everything fits me, So that was the first time in my life that happened. So I think, and this was in 2009.
Okay.
So this was like a long, long time ago. So I think definitely the UK is a lot more advanced in those terms than in Brazil, for sure.
Yeah. What about today? Is the UK more? Is Brazil sort of catching up in terms of representation? Because you mentioned about the trends actually, and what is the trends? What are the trends now for female models, or however you call it, fashion for women?
Yeah,
in
I
Brazil?
think right now it's going on different waves, but the way that, because I think your job as a photographer is to observe people in a sense. So then having this sort of photography mindset and working in fashion, it kind of makes you analyze a lot of things. And I think the way that I see the industry right now is that they will just book mid-size models. So it's like they're not a size 0, but they're not plus size either. So it's a way for them to be like, oh, we're not going to get a lot of hate on our comments, because whenever you do hire someone who is not like who doesn't fit in what a Victoria's Secret models is supposed to look like, you're going to get shit. You're going to get engagement, but you're going to get a lot of shit, You're going to get a lot of people saying, oh, this is not healthy, as if someone who is also extremely skinny and not, having enough calories to survive is also healthy. Like, what is being healthy in today's society, really, Anyway, that's another conversation. But so I think what they're doing, what I see a lot today is they will book someone who is mid-size, because then they're kind of ticking a diversity box in some sense, but they're not offending anyone.
Yeah, they're not offending the old school.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think
ways.
sometimes brands, they're a bit scared of playing outside of the norm, but they actually, because I think they're worried about their sales, but they actually forget that there's a huge part of the population who are good customers. Because that's the thing. If you are a bigger girl and you like fashion, you're going to pay whatever money you have when you find something cute. And I think this is something that brands are quite silly to overlook, because it's a huge market that has been overlooked for so many years.
Yeah.
And I think they're just missing on the opportunity to actually make more money.
Yeah. Wow. They should listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
But do they listen to you? I mean, are you someone that sort of pioneers and champions sort of diverse models and stuff like that? Do you find yourself doing that?
Yeah, definitely. Because also in my work as a photographer, sometimes I do casting as well, or sometimes like I'm in close relationships with the brands, and 9 out of 10 as well, the brands that I'm working with are either brands that I already use or brands that I would wear myself, or it's brands that that identify with what I sell as well, and what I represent. So I think it's a two-way street, because but I have a lot of different brands that I work with that we have close relationships, and I'm always giving them feedback. For example, there's this brand that I'm working now, and then I am 5'11", I'm a tall girl, and I have big feet too, so sometimes it's hard to find shoes my size. So now I'm working with this brand, and then I had a meeting with the founder, and I was like, look, we need to sort this out. Like, I can only fit in your open toe shoes. Like, we need to do something about this, So I always try to give them feedback of, I remember a few years ago when Topshop still had a shop in Oxford Street. I bought this bra that was the perfect bra, and I should have bought 10 of it, but I just bought one. And then I did a job with them last year, and I brought the bra, and I was like, look, you need to do this again. You need to bring this back, because I am a customer as well. So I think it's important for them, But my favorite brand to work with is Caroline Vito. She's a Brazilian, amazing friend of mine. She's pioneering pretty much the size inclusivity in the UK. And I remember the first time I tried on her clothes, because I'm a size 16, sometimes 18, depends on what it is. And then when I put Caroline's things, she starts her samples from my size.
Okay.
So instead of starting from a smaller size and then just like making more fabric and putting more fabric, she starts her samples from my size. So then everything fits me perfectly, So it's a different experience.
Yeah, she had you in mind then, or people your size in mind.
Exactly. And then with Caroline, sometimes like she would give me some clothes, and I'm like, and then I wear them, and I was like, look, you can make stronger, like this part of the thing, like this thread, and so I'm always giving her feedback, and we're always sort of trying to help her construct the pieces in some shape or form, and be like, oh no, I need more support here, or this is not working out so well,
Yeah.
So I think it's important, because at the end of the day, everyone's a customer, right? And the way that I see things today is we have so little power under capitalism. One of the few powers we have is to choose where we spend our money on, So if you're not a brand that you make me feel represented, and you're like, if I go on a website, even if you have my size, if I don't see anyone that looks like me, I'm not buying.
Okay. That's interesting. So you need to feel represented by the brand.
Exactly.
Before you'll purchase,
of course,
or participate.
Because if you're not hiring people like me to show that we can also look cute in your clothes, then what's the point?
Have you ever? I mean, that's so interesting that you say that. Have you had any kind of feedback, or has anyone ever approached you, maybe online as opposed to in person, and just said, I saw you wearing this thing. I'm also someone who's quite diverse in my shape and whatnot. I'm not the sort of traditional model.
Yeah.
And because I saw you, it made me buy the clothes, or it made me feel more confident. What kind of feedback do you get from people?
Yeah, it happens a lot. Or sometimes there's been a few times that maybe a brand that doesn't necessarily uses models like me, like maybe I work with them, or they give me an outfit, I get gifted something, and then I post a picture of it. Sometimes I get messages like, oh, I couldn't see myself wearing this brand, but like, if it works for you, now I'm gonna buy it, So I think, people want to see like, how would this work with my body? And there's a lot of people I know here in London that they're not necessarily models, but we have body diversity in common, I guess. And then we're always like, I love this fit, like I wanted to get the similar one, like what size did you get? I got this size. And then we swap information, like, maybe get a bigger size, like the model's a bit small, or this is oversized. So we're always like swapping tips, because you have to kind of.
How does that make you feel when they say to you, I wasn't going to get something until I saw you, and now you've inspired me to buy something?
It makes me feel good, because growing up, I didn't have many people that looked like me, who I thought were hot and successful and dressed nicely and had nice clothes, Like my mom, she was always super, super glamorous, but my mom had a very different body than me, so I couldn't wear any of her clothes, So then it's nice to be able to have this with other people, to feel like you have a big community of people that you can inspire and can inspire you. But this is one thing that really made a difference for me. Like a few years back, I unfollowed everyone that made me feel like shit. I don't know.
Oh,
if we
wow.
can, I don't know if we can curse here.
You can
but-
curse here,
okay,
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no,
Not in
I
Portuguese,
unfollowed like I love Kardashians. Don't get me wrong, love, but like I unfollowed all of them. I've unfollowed all of the people that made me feel like shit, and then I started to only follow people that inspired me and people that made me think and look beautiful. Because sometimes, like, not everyone feels good every day, you know. Sometimes you look at yourself and you're feeling down and but then I don't know, I go on Instagram and then I see a girl that looks like me, and then I see a girl that has a body like mine and she looks hot as fuck, and I'm like, yes, you know. So that hypes you up as well. So I think what you surround yourself and what you consume is also very important.
Yeah. Wow, so you unfollowed like just loads of people and that, was it?
Yeah, and it's not personal, you know, but
Yeah.
sometimes, because that's the thing, like social media, I don't want to know what everyone is doing all the time. You know, there was one day I was on my stories and I was watching my ex's family talent show in Australia live. And I was like, why am I watching this? You know, like, I don't want to know. Like, you know,
So random.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes, like, social media just feeds you with so much unnecessary information all the time. So I think it's important to like curate what you're going to receive.
Yeah. Random, not random, but just moving on quickly.
Yeah.
Where's home for you? You've been here. You're about what, 20, 28, 29. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you've been in England 10 years.
On and off.
On and off.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, every
More
week
off.
on and off. Yeah.
More off and on, but yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the point, though. You travel quite a lot for work and,
yeah.
you know, obviously personal things and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you're Brazilian. You're from the west side of, is it the west side of Rio?
Oeste, I always...
West, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
I
said-
always
you said it.
confuse Oeste
West.
with West, yeah.
Yeah, so you're from the west. Where are you from? Tijuca?
Yeah. No, from Recreio.
Recreio? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, show my
Bolsonaro
knowledge.
land.
Yeah, well, new president. So yeah, we've touched on that in the podcast before. But
Yeah.
where's home?
I think that's a tricky question. I think home will always be Brazil.
Mm.
Home will always be Brazil. But after so many memories, so many years, so many stories, London feels like home too, a little bit. Not fully, just a tiny bit. But more than I would like to admit, maybe.
Okay, more than you'd like to admit.
Yeah, because, you know, when I walk around London, I have so many memories in so many different places of this town, you know, of the city, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I asked you where's home because you've got quite a bit of time here in England, in
Yeah.
London. Yet you do travel a lot. We have to make sure that's said because we don't know when we'll next see you.
Yeah.
Or how long we can get you for. But I remember when I lived in Brazil, Brazil was home.
Yeah.
And I felt bad. I kind of battled with the idea that I'm from a place.
Yeah.
Like I'm from this road where we're recording now.
Yeah.
I grew up here. When I moved to Brazil, I lived in Rio, then I lived in Bahia.
Yeah.
So for me, home kind of I feel a little bit more Brazilian than maybe I should. I feel kind of
Yeah.
guilty about that. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm saying bye to some of my roots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I suppose the reason I'm asking is, like, do you kind of have that sort of conflict sometimes? Like, hey, you know what? I'm here and I'm liking it, but I'm really from there. And should I be a certain way because, like, should I still be representing or whatnot?
To be honest, the UK is never gonna compete with Brazil in me. You know what I mean? Like, I am very carioca, you know, like I feel very Brazilian. I know I'm very Brazilian. I feel very proud of being Brazilian. And, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, you know, like your immigration status, because like in so many years you can get a British passport. It's like, babe, I don't want a British passport. I'm sorry. Like, I do not identify or recognize in any shape or form of the British identity, you know? Like, I just feel very, very Brazilian. And I feel like that's the hardest thing. It is to be here for 10 years and to still hold my fort.
Yeah, wow.
you know, because I see a lot of people who come here and they want to be British or they want to not be Brazilian, whatever, and that's as far away as I feel, you know?
That's interesting. A lot of the Brazilians that I know fit into that, what you just described, is that they're very proud and happy that they've made it over here. And if you think about the amount of money that they could be making from work and stuff like that, the amount of opportunities that do exist here.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, don't get me wrong. I am very thankful of being here. I feel very, very privileged to have been able to come here and go as I want, you know, because this was my dream, you know, and I'm not saying that I take it for granted at all. I'm very thankful for all of the opportunities this place is giving me. It's been hard, you know. It wasn't like it was given. Like, I've done so many odd jobs. Like, I've worked in so many different places in the city before I was able to work freelance as a model, as a photographer, you know. So it's been like a really long, trenches ride.
Yeah, you put the work in.
Yeah, you know. But I feel like that's my biggest pride, to know that I've been able to get to where I am in my career today. I've been able to establish my place here without losing myself and without losing sort of the joy and the spontaneity of being Brazilian, you know, because I feel like I know so many people here that the moment that they lose touch with that, that's when they get depressed. That's when they start to really struggle being here, you know. And I've been in that place a couple of times. Yeah. So that's why I travel so much, because I need to be by the ocean. And if I cannot go to Brazil like 3 times a year, at least I can go to Italy. I can go to Spain. I can go to, you know, like I can go to other places that have more of a Latin vibe sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's also true. When we talk about, like, looking at, do you want another water? You okay?
No, I have.
Cool. All good? Yeah? Good. I was going to ask you about the sort of winter blues.
Yeah.
Not sure if you've experienced winter here or how many times you have, but just in general, like, the alegria, the happiness that maybe you get more on the Latin parts of the world, South America, Brazil. How does it compare to being in London, to being in this part of Europe? Do you find yourself feeling a little bit down during sort of colder times in the year?
Yeah, so I've had many winters here, especially when I was a student. Like, I couldn't really afford to go to Brazil for 1 month in the most expensive month of the year, you know? So I've had many, many winters here, and I always get extremely depressed. Like, it's very hard for me not to enter into a really horrible place. So hence the traveling as well. I try to escape as much as I can. Sometimes work doesn't allow, sometimes studies doesn't allow, you know. Everyone would love to spend 6 months here and 6 months in Brazil every year, but not every year is possible, you know. So sometimes you have bills to pay and commitments and other things. But yeah, for me, it's really hard. And just yesterday, I was with a really close couple, friends of mine, and one of them is Italian, the other one is Brazilian, and then we were making plans for winter, you know, because we were starting to get a bit sad about it. And I was like, no, this winter is going to be great. We're going to, you know, we started planning, like, let's have sushi night, let's do this, let's do that, you know. But I've also started to, don't get me wrong, I would always rather be at the beach, but I've started to also see some good things about the winter, you know, because last year I had a full summer year. So I was in Brazil until April, and then I came to the UK. Then I was in Europe, like, traveling. Last year I was traveling even more than I am right now. And I only went to Brazil. I went to Brazil in November because I had a lot of work here. And then, so it was pretty much like almost a full summer year. I went to Brazil when it was starting to get cold here. And it's exhausting.
All that travel?
Not only the travel, but the weather as well, because I think the winter makes you more introspective, and it makes you like, it's an easier time for you to study, for you to like do things. Because I'm the type of person that if it's sunny, I'm out. I need to be on the street, I need to be on a bike, I need to be swimming, I need to be like doing things, you know? And being on the go that much for like a full year was a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to, I'm starting like a somewhat permanent position next month, which it's gonna make me a bit more grounded in London for a few months. Thank you. So I'm gonna have to deal with winter this time, you know. So I'm embracing myself for it. I think I'm gonna dedicate it to some studying, because I want to learn, I want to study a bit more Italian and French. So I think I'm gonna take this time to sort of study and
get a bit rooted.
Yeah, exactly.
Plantado, as I said. Plantado is not a word, apparently. This is what I learned.
No.
Plantado. Not. I promise you, I learned that from someone.
But I'm not going to lie, the joy of Brazilian Portuguese is that you can make up anything you want. Yeah. You know? And people will follow up. Like, it's fine.
90% or maybe 70% of my Portuguese was me saying a word that was completely English.
Yeah.
And just putting the adu at the end of it or something like that. Yeah. Like that's just how I do it. And it works until you meet someone English and they're like, what are you doing? They're the ones who can't understand you. Yeah, but that's good, anyway. I'm glad that you have a new opportunity, that you got a new job here, that it's gonna be based here.
Yeah.
If you had a job offer to, you know, the same job, whatever it is that you're doing, is it modeling or photography or?
It's related to photography. I don't know if I can share yet.
Okay.
But so, yeah.
All right. Well, link in bio when it comes.
Yeah.
If that same opportunity came up in Brazil, would you have taken it?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's always better to be doing it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
No, it's just because, you know, being in Brazil, like, as I said, it's home, you know, it's like, now it's getting better, but I remember when I first moved here, something that would really piss me off is that no one could ever spell my name. Fernanda is
Sorry, Fernanda. Name, I thought you meant your surname.
No, people couldn't spell Fernanda. So every time I would have to like call the GP or call this or call that, I always had to be like F-E-R, you know. And then in Brazil, I never had to do that in my life. And here it used to be like all the time. And now it's getting better. I think more and more people ask me less how to spell it. But it's just these small things, you know, that really make a difference sometimes for you not to feel at home, you know?
Yeah.
But, and then I miss Brazilian food a lot. I really want to eat an acarajé right now.
Oh, man. We got Rafa in the back there from Salvador.
You know?
Definitely missing his acarajé. Missing. You can get dende here. I don't know if you can cook.
Have you made acarajé? Do you know how long
I haven't had
takes?
Acarajé in nearly a year since I've been back in London.
So in January, I did acarajé for the first time, and it's work. It's work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. Especially once, when I first decided to make my own acarajé, I decided to make it from like scratch, and I gave up because I literally spent 6 hours peeling off white beans. For 6 hours. I started at like 8 in the morning and then I finished. It was like almost 1 p.m. or something.
Jeez.
Just to peel the white beans. I'm sure.
You really wanted that acarajé.
I really wanted the acarajé, really. No, but it was like a spiritual offering. It wasn't for me, you know. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it was like a meditation as well, you know. It was like a full process, but it was... Mm-hmm. It was intense.
I was going to ask you about something else, but you mentioned about spiritually. I mean, if you want to speak about your religion or if you have any kind of spirituality, that would be great. Do you?
Yes, I'm part of Umbanda in Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, could you explain what Umbanda is, just for some of our...
Yes, so Umbanda is actually the only... 100% Brazilian religion that we have that was actually born in Brazil. Umbanda was born around 110 years ago, something like that. I think it was like 1920, 15, I don't know, something like that. And then Umbanda is a mixture of many different beliefs, but especially like Afro and Caribbean orishas, but then with other sort of local Brazilian entities, I would say. So like Caboclo, Preto Velho, you have different ones in Brazil. So I am part of Umbanda, and then I'm also part of Ifá, which is African oracle that now it's starting to get a bit more popular in Brazil. And it's, so these are the two things that I follow. Like,
do you get to follow your religions here in London?
Yes, so this was actually very life-changing. I found a really good terreiro here in London that I've been going since March.
Okay.
And I was in a very deep state of winter seasonal depression, and then I think it was Ogum Day or something, and then everyone in Brazil was celebrating, and I had this really big need of connecting and feeling at home and feeling in touch with my religion and things. And then there was one terreiro I went in the pandemic here, and then I didn't like it. But then that day I was so desperate. I was like, I will go anywhere. I will go anywhere that it's available. And then that place was closed that day. And then I found this other one that a friend had told me about it. But this friend had never been to one in Brazil. She had only been to this one in London. And I was like, amiga, I'm sorry, I don't know if I trust you because you don't know like what to compare it to. And then I went there, and then the moment I walked in, I was like, okay, this is it. So this place has been really special and good for me, especially in these moments that I need to plantar.
Yeah, you need to be plantada.
And to like ground myself, and also to remind myself that I'm not alone here as well, it's good. And, they sell really good coxinhas there too. So sometimes it's like, because, my Sunday ritual in Rio was always going to the beach and stuff. So this feels like it's my version of a Sunday ritual here. I eat a coxinha, I go to the terreiro. So, yeah.
The best coxinha I ever had was in Stockwell. Unfortunately, I've had so many, but I think...
Really?
Yeah. But I've had so many in Rio and stuff, and I just didn't really like them.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling myself, you know what? You're just used to the London taste of them or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I never liked acarajé until I moved to Salvador.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd even risk eating one here just in case it wasn't good. I could have akara, which is Nigerian, but if I was there to get the authentic.
So there was this lady, I think she lives in Leeds or something, and then she was selling some acarajé in Brick Lane like a few months ago, and that was like the real deal. Yeah. But the problem is I've been ruined, okay? Like acarajé is my favorite food. Like when I'm in Bahia, I eat it like 3 times a day. It's really bad. But I like, it's a lot. But I was like, I can't say no. Like it's acarajé, it's in front of me, But in January, I went to my friend's home, which is the indigenous community of Serra do Padeiro, the Tupinambá indigenous community in the south of Bahia. And then they know acarajé is my favorite food, and we actually made our own acarajé there. And the palm oil was 1 day old.
Oh, wow.
So this was like the freshest acarajé I've ever had in my life. So I think after that one, I'm kind of ruined forever.
Yeah. The curse of too many experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of too many good ones. Cool. Let's just take a minute just because I want to go through the questions that I
Sorry, I'm a Gemini. It's very easy for me to get off track and just start talking about
you're good.
acarajé.
It's quite important topics, you know.